15 minutes. I'm going to turn this over. Yeah? Shout out if it's running out of, sure you will. Yes, nimbostratus. The nimbo blooming stratus. That's a cloud we had over Bristol today. In fact, most of the country. And it's the just flat, dark grey, featureless cloud that just rains and rains and rains and hangs around. It is not the most popular cloud, not even in the Cloud Appreciation Society. But here's the point, let's not let that cloud give all the other ones a bad name. All right, this is the important point. All right, most clouds don't rain actually. I set up the Cloud Appreciation Society because I felt that somebody needed to stand up for clouds, all right? Because I feel they get a bad press. We talk about someone having a cloud hanging over them. It's a bad thing. We talk about a cloud on the horizon when something's bad in store. And, you know, of course, when you start to think about it, they're one of the most evocative, dynamic, poetic aspects of nature. And when you stop and ask someone, you know, what they think, you realise that, you know, we just kind of parrot this thing about thinking of clouds as a sort of obstructions in life, because we notice them when they get in the way of the sun. You know, when something's there the whole time, we don't notice it, but when it gets in the way of the sun, we notice it. We notice them, so we think of them as the obstructions, all right? And that's the kind of thing we parrot. But you stop and ask someone what they think about clouds, and they, you know, admit to having a fondness for them. So I really, really wanted to tap into that with the Cloud Appreciation Society. When you become a member, you get a badge. Right? Very important to have a badge. You also get a certificate. We do hereby certify the person's name, join the society at the date, and will henceforth seek to persuade all who listen of the wonder and beauty of clouds. So, campaigning element, and you get a number. I realise people get very annoyed if they don't get a number. Alright, so I realised that quite early on. You have to have a number. And yeah, this is 10 years. It's been going for 10 years. I was just looking back the other day at some of the shapes, all right, the cloud shapes that people have sent in over those 10 years. The idea of finding shapes in the clouds and them being the sort of stimulants to the imagination is a really important aspect of cloud spotting, all right? So I was just looking back and I'm remembering some of my favourites over the years. You know, back in 2005 when the society started, we had the giant hound. 2006, it was the Grim Reaper up on the horizon for an aeroplane. What does that say? I'm not a bit nervous if you're a nervous flyer. 2007, we had Salvador Dali with a moustache. Have we got there you go, moustache. Very important, these little details. We also had a cumulus cloud in the shape of the abominable snowman going to rob a bank. With a gun, pistol. Yeah, then what was it? 2008 we had a giant sniffing herbs. A bit later in the year, he was caught sipping on an aerial. 2009, pair of lips, Mick Jagger's lips, and we also had Andy Murray going to serve an ace. 2010 we had a leaping fish. 2011 we had a cockerel. We also had a topless sunbather. And if I remember rightly, we had a flying saucer, a lenticularis cloud, right, in the shape of a flying saucer, and a walking stick. 2012 we had a hummingbird. 2013 we had a Cirrus cloud in the shape of a witch over Sydney. Flying witch, and we had a wizard over British Columbia. And of course, 2014, that was the year we had an angel with a camcorder. Which brings us to 2015 when we had an eagle in its nest, a squirrel on a fence, and a man laughing at 10 years devoted to the aimless pastime of cloud spotting. And because it is an aimless pastime, all right. This is you know, you're not to change the world lying on your back and sort of cloud spotting, finding shapes in the clouds, are you? You know, it's sort of aimless activity. But because it's aimless, that doesn't mean it's pointless. In fact, I think it's very, very valuable because it's aimless. I like to think of the cloud spotting as being kind of counter or an antidote to some of the pressures of the digital world that we're under, and that feeling that we're always busy. We've always got emails to answer, or I don't know, Twitter feeds to feed, or whatever. You need an excuse to do nothing, and that's what cloud spotting is. I think it actually is helpful to have something which legitimizes doing nothing. But the society is not about looking back. Okay, it's about looking up and looking around and noticing the things that are so everyday in the sky, so commonplace, that we've become blind to them. So I thought it would be quite helpful to be able to give you a sort of crash course in cloud spotting, so you know some of the characters, the important characters. But I think I'm going to also, I hope some of you are listening to the cloud terms I used when we were sharing some of those, because I want this also to be a bit of a cloud quiz. Right? Let's start with this familiar fellow. Is there anyone in the audience, you can put your hand up, who knows what type of cloud this is? Hand up down there. Shout it out, please. Cumulus? It is indeed a cumulus cloud. A round of applause, please. Did I say there were prizes? There you go. You have to pass that back. That is an enamel Cloud Appreciation Society badge for you, young lady. Well done. The cumulus cloud. Right. This is named after the Latin for a stack or a heap. These are like they're the Simpsons clouds, aren't they? They're the generic ones. If you were to sort of close your eyes and think of a cloud, it would probably be a cumulus that comes to mind. The fair weather cloud, all right, they form on a sunny day. And because of the sort of generic ones, it's always these ones that you see kids drawing, all right? No drawing of a house with a chimney and a levitating family who's complete without some cumulus clouds in the sky above it. So that's one reason. And a lot of those cloud shapes earlier on, so the abominable snowman, that was a cumulus cloud. A lot of those cloud shapes were cumulus. They are the best ones for finding shapes in because they've got crisp edges. They feel more solid than a lot of the other clouds. Moving on to this one. Do you remember the witch over Sydney? Hands up, anyone who, right down here. It is indeed a cirrus cloud. A round of applause, please. Right. What have you got? Cloud Appreciation Society calendar 2016. Hot off the presses. Well done. Yes, Cirrus, right, named after the Latin for a lock of hair. All right, these are made of ice crystals. These are high clouds falling from the upper reaches of the troposphere. These ice crystals pass through differing winds and they speed up and slow down, giving it these full streak, is what they're called, these brush-stroked appearances. I think one of the most beautiful of the common clouds, Cirrus. From up there, these ice crystals can be zooming along. They go quite fast, maybe 200 miles an hour, if they're in jet stream, 300 miles an hour. Zooming along, but from all the way down here, from all this distance away, because these are high clouds, they appear to be moving slowly and gracefully. And this is a sort of important point. Clouds generally develop at a relatively relaxed pace. They change and they move generally quite slowly. And that is useful because it means to tune in, to have your head in the clouds and sort of tune into that pace is to slow down. All right, it's a moment of meditation, just like 5 minutes, just to stop what you're doing and pay attention to what's in the sky. Meteorological meditation. Right, brings us on. Oh, there's another Cirrus while we're at it. To this. Now, I didn't mention this in any of the cloud shapes. There wasn't one like this. Any ideas what this beast of the atmosphere is? Hands up. Yes, sir. Down at the back.
A nimbus.
A what?
Nimbus. Cumulus nimbus.
Nearly, but I'm afraid not quite. I can't give you the prize. Anyone else? No one. Oh, come on. Yes, go on. Oh, wait. They're at the back yet.
Something like Nimbus stratus.
Nimbus stratus was the one I mentioned at the beginning, the grey overcast layer, yes. It's a cumulonimbus, it is indeed. Punches the air. There you go, it's perfect for you. There you go, do the washing up. Alright? About time we did the washing up. Right, cumulonimbus, yeah, this is a storm cloud. Thunder and lightning, when it's still fairly sort of crisp at the top there, it's called a calvus bald, but once it's a bit more mature, it's gone very hairy on top. It's called capillatus, hairy. Cumulonimbus is a storm cloud. That's the thunder and lightning and hail produced by this cloud. It has this distinctive appearance where it spreads out at the top because it reaches the part of the atmosphere that is like a kind of ceiling, invisible ceiling to the growth of clouds. The tropopause, it's called. And clouds can't go through that, so they end up spreading outwards at the top. This is the tallest cloud, reaches 10 miles up into the atmosphere. It was number 9 in the original list of clouds in 1896 in this book that was published. So to be on cloud 9 is to be on the tallest cloud. It comes from that. Cumulonimbus, indeed. Right. Okay. Last question. Alright, it's not the end of the cloud type, but there's the last one that's a question. Any thoughts? It was the flying saucer cloud. Have you done it before? No, you haven't, have you? It's a lenticularis! You get our app. Alright, our app. We do have a normal sort of app for the phones, but this is our old school app. Right, do you remember these? You sort of turn the dials and it says, we've got pictures and says elevations, different type. Anyway, there you go, you can work it out, alright? It doesn't need Wi-Fi or anything. Well done. Yes, lenticularis, named after the Latin for a lentil. These are often, full name of the Altocumulus lenticularis, these are, look there is a particularly dramatic, when the sun's low, these can look very, very dramatic. Those 4 grey sea lions are obviously all members of the Cloud Appreciation Society. We have got 40,000 members now, by the way, I forgot to say that earlier on, and all these photographs I'm showing you are sent in by members from around the world. So they're in 106 countries, I think, our members now. So yeah, these look like UFOs often, and they form around mountains, so as the air rises to pass over the mountain, when it's stable conditions, it takes on a kind of wavy path in the lee of the peak, and the crests of the waves, when conditions are right, is where you can get these kind of disc-like clouds to form, and sometimes they really look brilliantly like UFOs, or like the one that was before. And then rarer, so we're now into the exotic clouds here, right? We had those 3 common ones earlier on, Cumulonimbus, Cirrus and Cumulus. We're into the exotic ones now. The Fallstreak Hole, where one part of a cloud layer starts to freeze and fall below, the ice crystals fall below, the rest are supercooled and still in droplet form. Or the mama cloud. What do you think mama is the word for in Latin? Udders. Udders, you can see why. And these, the dramatic, most buxom mama clouds form on the underside of the anvil of a storm cloud, like that one. So there's a storm cloud, storm in the centre there, spreading out in the anvil, that big sort of canopy, and underneath is the mama. All right, but 1 minute 40 seconds. So Horseshoe vortex cloud is another rare one. The Kelvin-Helmholtz wave cloud. Looks like a series of breaking waves, possibly the rarest. You get most points for this in one of my cloud books where you kind of nerdily get points. The different ones you spot. Get a lot of points to Kelvin. It's to do with shearing winds, right? But then I want to talk a little bit about this. All right, this is a cloud type sent into us about 6 years ago. I looked at it and I go, that didn't really fit with the normal cloud types. They sort of seem to be covered by the normal terms. There is a term called undulatus, but I thought maybe we need a new classification, because every now and then one of these clouds would come in, and each time I would go, oh, there's a sort of another of those weird clouds that doesn't fit in with the existing classifications. Anyway, long story short, about 8 years later, it's finally now being accepted by the World Meteorological Organization, who are the people who say cloud classifications, what's right and what. They do this book called the International Cloud Atlas. It's published once every sort of few decades, and they have just this, about a month ago, confirmed that this is going to be accepted as a new classification of cloud. It came out of the Cloud Appreciation Society, first new type of cloud since 1951. So, thank you very much. Thank you. A few grains left. That's just enough time for me to read out the manifesto of the Cloud Appreciation Society. It's about 50 pages long. No, it's not, 1 page. I think if you've got a society, you need to, make it very clear what you stand for. All right, so that's why I did this manifesto from an early stage. All right, the Manifesto of the Cloud Appreciating Society. We believe that clouds are unjustly maligned, and that life would be immeasurably poorer without them. We think that clouds are nature's poetry, and the most egalitarian of her displays, since everyone can have a fantastic view of them. We pledge to fight blue sky thinking. Wherever we find it. Life would be dull if we had to look up a cloudless monotony day after day. We seek to remind people that clouds are expressions of the atmosphere's moods and can be read like those of a person's countenance. We believe that clouds are for dreamers, and their contemplation benefits the soul. Indeed, all who consider the shapes they see in them will save money on psychoanalysis bills. And so we say to all who listen, look up, marvel at the ephemeral beauty, and always remember to live life with your head in the clouds. Thanks very much.